Jeffrey and the Gold Bars. I met Jeffrey on IG. He commented on a page of a celebrity I follow. He said he would love to know me, and heart reacted to my comment, as I follow a lot of celebrity pages. I checked out his profile on IG and he had thousands of followers, and thousands were following him, so his profile looked legit to me. Jeffrey sent me a DM introducing himself. He said he was in the military and deployed to Yemen for peacekeeping. He said he was 28 years old and had been in the military for 8 years. He said he had a daughter named Lily, who was 4 years old, and that his ex wife was cheating on him and would leave his daughter alone while she met with her boyfriends while he was deployed. He ended up divorcing her and won custody of his daughter. He said his ex really hurt him, and he found it difficult to trust anyone for a loving relationship. He asked if I was single, and I was. I'd gotten out of a long term relationship about a year prior and was just kind of working on myself before diving into meeting new people. Jeffrey said he saw my profile picture and comments and he couldn't help but DM me. We started to follow each other and we would chat on occasion. The first couple of weeks it was kind of hit and miss when we would chat and we never had a real set chat schedule. When I asked him where his daughter is while he's deployed, he said that she stays with his mother, her grandmother, in Georgia. Jeffrey said he was born and raised in Georgia and joined the military to give himself a better life, and he stays in the military to give a good life to his daughter. He said he was deployed for 8 months before returning home, and then said he would likely be sent to South Korea for 2 years. He wasn't too intrusive with his questions, and he asked the normal, my age, where I lived, and at the time I lived in Minnesota. I have a daughter who's 8 years old, and I'm raising her on my own as the father ran off when I was 5 months pregnant. He was very kind to me, though, and asked how my daughter was all the time, how I was doing, and every time he messaged me, he'd ask about my daughter. He told me Yemen was very rough for him and his other troops. They were on patrol all the time and alert for danger. At first, we didn't have long private conversations. He kept me at a distance where, yes, he would message me and ask how I was, but he never tried to have a relationship with me or talk about anything romantic. He would leave me a message asking about my day, and I would respond asking about his and wish that he would keep safe. Well, this went on for weeks. And then Jeffrey asked me if I felt comfortable exchanging phone numbers, as he's not always on IG due to being on patrol. I told him that we could exchange numbers as I found no harm in it at the time. He gave me his number, which was an Atlanta, Georgia area code, and I gave him mine. He asked if I had Telegram, which I didn't, but I did have WhatsApp, so we connected on there. He said it was easier for him to chat there as all the military men use WhatsApp. The moment we traded numbers, though, that's when Jeffrey went full blast into trying to start a relationship with me. He would send me hearts and other romantic pictures almost instantaneously. He really tried to win me over. He sent pictures of his daughter and asked me for pictures of mine. And at first, I only sent him pictures of me. But as time went on, messages flowed, and I started sending him pictures of my daughter and of myself with my daughter. We were together on our outings. He would send me pictures of his daughter, which he said his mom had taken for him to look at while he was deployed. Jeffrey called me on voice chat and video, but during video chat, his side was turned off. He said due to security issues, they were not allowed to video chat as it might give off his location. Jeffrey had a very slight accent, which he said he picked up from being deployed to Nigeria for 4 years. He said the locals would talk to him and he just picked up an accent. He said the military was there to secure oil drilling sites years ago. He would send me pictures of himself in the military in uniform, working out at the gym, and more. He told me that once his deployment was over, he was told that he would be in South Korea, and then after, he was going to retire early from the military and wanted to return to the States, settle down, and maybe start a business. Jeffrey asked me if I'd like to try a relationship with him, and honestly, I felt like he was a sweet guy. He said our daughters could become sisters, and he painted a beautiful picture for me of a happy family. He always wanted pictures of me, though, my daughter, my home, my car, everything. and I was excited to share with him a window into my world. He would share pictures too. In fact, we shared dozens of pictures together between us. Jeffrey and I started to become closer, and we would text all the time. Even while I was at work, I would hide my phone from my boss and text, or go into the bathrooms at work and text Jeffrey. He would call me every night before I went to sleep, and one night we talked. He said he was keeping a secret from me, and he told me that I can't tell anyone, or he could get arrested. I promised him I wouldn't say a word, and he told me that while out on patrol, there was a box he found in this abandoned building. He said the box contained bars of gold, and he thought all of them together would be worth millions. He said none of the other soldiers had seen the box, so he hid it in some dirt, and then went back to it daily, taking 2 bars each time he patrolled, and hid the bars in his barracks. He said that he was putting the bars together, and he found a shipment place in Yemen where soldiers go to buy their food and drinks in town, and the shopkeeper was willing to ship the box of gold bars for a cut of the gold. Jeffrey said he promised to pay the shopkeeper 10 of the gold bars to ship the box for him and keep it a secret. He said he collected over about 100 gold bars or so, he thinks, and each bar is worth thousands, if not more. Jeffrey asked for my address and asked if he could ship the gold bars to my house as he didn't want to stress his mother as she was already caring for his daughter. Once I was to receive the bars, he said to hold on to them until he returns to the States, and when we meet, we can sell them and buy a big house for us and our daughters to all live together. My only concern was getting into legal trouble. Jeffrey told me that the shopkeeper will wrap all the bars and say they are bags of rice and ship them to my house so customs won't know. He asked me for my address to give to the shopkeeper and take things from there. He promised this would be a way for us to build a great life together. I gave Jeffrey my address and he said he would get the gold bars to the shopkeeper for mailing. He said the shopkeeper needed also my email address to put on the shipping claims label, so I have given him my full name, address, and email address. Jeffrey told me he was falling in love with me and he couldn't wait for all of us to be one big happy family. It was a few hours later when I received an email from a man calling himself Mohammed, who said he was a shopkeeper in Yemen and that Jeffrey had given him my information to ship the bags of rice, which I knew were gold bars. He said he spoke to the delivery cargo company who agreed to take the quote bags of rice and gave them my information and email to get in touch with me. He told me Jeffrey always comes into his shop and talks about me and how much he loves me. I thanked Mohammed and I waited. Jeffrey and I continued to talk, and then Jeffrey told me that he thinks his commander suspects him of doing something. When I asked him what, he said he thinks he suspects that his commander thinks he is spending too much time at the shopkeeper's shop in the city center, and that he was given an early assignment deployment to South Korea, and he must leave right away. I was a little worried, and he told me not to worry, that he was able to get all of the gold bars to the shopkeeper, and the shopkeeper said he packaged them for the courier. Jeffrey said he wouldn't be in touch for 2 weeks as he had to be declassified from his Yemen deployment and then sent to South Korea, get set up there, and then he'd be in touch. I missed him so much as we talked daily, but he reminded me that the gold bars would buy us a brand new future. I received an email from Global Shipment Company, and they told me they received the box shipment and gave me a slip via email with the count of 100 bags of fine rice. They said the package would arrive in 15 days and to please confirm my address, my full name, phone number, and email on the form and email it back. I did so and sent it back and waited. It was the next day when I received a shipment slip with my name and information. It asked if I will accept the shipment, to which I replied yes. By this time, Jeffrey was on his way to South Korea. I then received an email from the global shipper saying I would have to pay a handling fee for the box, which was unpaid by Mohammed the shopkeeper. It was $200. I emailed Mohammed and replied, and he told me that Jeffrey didn't leave him any money for the shipping fee and he was unable to pay it as that was not in the agreement, and he suggested that I pay it. I emailed the global company and asked them how I can pay it. They told me I can wire $200 via bank transfer to a bank account in North Carolina, which had their company name in it. The shipping company also sent me a website of theirs about how they ship packages all across the globe. I went ahead and did the bank transfer. Since all these gold bars were coming in, I figured $200 was not very much for accepting this package. They thanked me for my payment after asking for a copy of the bank transfer. They said my package could be sent out now, and I spent a few days nervous waiting for this package of gold. I still had not heard from Jeffrey, and I knew it would be a while before he was in South Korea and set up. I was a little concerned for him as he was really worried about his commander's suspicions. I also emailed Mohammed and let him know I paid the fee, and he wished me well and good luck with my husband Jeffrey. The word husband honestly made my heart flutter, and I had this vision of us as a big happy family. It was about 9 days since I paid the fee, and Jeffrey finally messaged me on WhatsApp. He told me he was in South Korea, and the military have him in a barrack with soldiers he didn't know, and he said things were very strict. He was trying to get through it. He said they were patrolling the border between South and North Korea. He said it was very dangerous and not as bad as Yemen, though. He said he couldn't wait for us to be together, and he asked me if I received my package. I told him no, not yet, but the shipping company required a $200 fee. He was super upset by this and told me he would pay me back as soon as he gets to the States and comes to visit. I told him not to worry, and he told me that he loved me so much and his daughter now knows about me and she wants to call me her new mother. It was like life was going right for me and Jeffrey was everything to me. We started talking again as often as we could. It came to be day 14 and I had still not received the package. The night before the 15th day, I got an email from Global Shipping Company, and they let me know that my package was being held by customs, as they discovered it was not bags of rice, but bars of gold. They said I would have to email the customs officer, Mr. Green, to take care of the claims form, and that going forward they have done their part to deliver the package and that customs has taken over. I wasn't sure what to do in this situation. I emailed Mr. Green, and I received a response almost right away. He told me that the package has been seized by customs due to undeclared gold and mislabel of the package that says rice. Mr. Green told me the customs charge fine would be 3,500 US dollars to release the package, and once I paid the fine, the package would be delivered by a customs delivery service officer. I told Mr. Green to please wait as I need to speak with Jeffrey about this. He told me that I had 24 hours to make a decision to pay, or the bars would be confiscated, surrendered to customs, and sold at an auction. I left Jeffrey several messages telling him what was going on, and he didn't answer me. And as morning rolled around, the customs officer emailed me asking if I was ready to pay as they're holding the gold and time's running out. Jeffrey finally messaged me saying he was on patrol and couldn't use his phone. He said he didn't understand and he thinks the shopkeeper messed up by not packing the gold good enough and blamed him and said he was going to send a military friend to the shopkeeper's shop in Yemen to deal with his mistake. I told Jeffrey we can just pay it and be finished with everything and have the gold. Otherwise, they're going to auction it. He said he was confused and didn't know what to do as he couldn't access his account until he returned home and he's busy out on patrol. He said they're very strict in South Korea and he was worried about being reprimanded if he left the base to try and access his bank account. Jeffrey asked if I could pay the fee and he can pay me back when he returns to the States. He mentioned he might be back sooner as his mother called him telling him that his daughter is very sick and might need to go to the hospital. I could tell in his voice he was stressed. He was so worried about his daughter, and I told Jeffrey I would speak to the customs agent and see what I could do. He told me how much he loves me and thanked me for helping. I emailed the customs agent and asked what I can do as Jeffrey is overseas and he's having bank issues. The customs officer told me I can remit payment of $3,500 through a bank transfer or Bitcoin transfer. I told him I don't know how Bitcoin works, but I can bank transfer, and I wanted an email in writing stating that once I transfer the 3,500 that everything would be completed. The customs officer emailed back and assured me that once the payment's made, then the package of gold will be released to me. He gave me the bank account of a man in New York who is said to be the processing agent for customs release since the package is being held at JFK Airport. I took out an instant loan through my bank as I have an open line of credit with them, and I did the transfer. Once I let the customs officer know, they sent me a ticket stamped that the fee has been paid and that they will release my package for delivery within 48 hours. I let Jeffrey know I paid the customs fee and he was so thankful. He said he was having issues with his phone as he ran out of data and was unable to buy more. He asked me if I'd be able to get him $200 worth of iTunes cards until he could pay me back, as he needed to be able to call about his daughter, who had now apparently been rushed to the hospital with stomach pain. I told Jeffrey I didn't even know what an iTunes card is, I'd never used them. He told me where I can get one, and I ended up going there and buying two $100 cards, and he had me scratch the back off, take photos of them, and then text him the information. He thanked me so much and told me that his daughter was being taken into emergency surgery. They thought she had appendicitis, but they're not sure and couldn't get all the information as his phone had cut off and he was trying to call, but he needed those cards. I asked Jeffrey which hospital she was in, and I asked for his mother's number so I could be the go between. But he said he took care of things and was able to connect with his mother and check on his daughter. She was in surgery because of the military health care. His daughter was at a military hospital which is private and the public has no access to the information. I told Jeffrey, let me know how things go and what happens, and he said he would. We had said our good nights, and around 3 a.m. I received a phone call from Jeffrey. He was screaming on the phone, telling me his daughter had taken a turn for the worst and they needed to do another emergency medical procedure on her to save her life, but that his insurance was not approving it and they were refusing to do the surgery until Jeffrey could pay $5,000 deposit. This struck me as strange, and I told him that that's not right. An emergency surgery will be done no matter what, and the hospital will bill you, especially for a child. But he said that they're refusing until he pays, as it's a special military hospital. I informed Jeffrey there's places we can reach out to, public children's hospitals that'll take her. And I asked him to tell me which city she's in. I would contact someone to help, as this is not right. He told me being in the military, they have to pay for emergency surgeries and the hospital wouldn't release his daughter. That he's trying to get an emergency flight back to the States, but his commander told him he has to pay $4,000 for the evacuation flight and replacement at his post. He was now wailing on the phone, begging me to help him, and asked if I can wire either the money for his daughter's surgery or the money for his flight, or both if I really loved him. I told Jeffrey I don't have that kind of cash, and I would contact the hospitals locally and where his daughter's at and try to find a way. He told me he would deal with it, don't worry, and hung up on me. I was upset by this and reached out to Jeffrey on Messenger, but he didn't read my messages. I told him as soon as it's morning time that I would call the hospitals, but give me the city that his daughter's near. He never answered, and I ended up falling back asleep and woke up a few hours later. Jeffrey still had not messaged, so I ended up calling some major children's hospitals in cities near where I thought his mother lived, as they said they were in Georgia. So I tried Atlanta, where I thought maybe his daughter was, and they told me this sounds odd, even for military children, and no child would be refused surgery to save their life, even if they had no insurance at all. I called Jeffrey, and he didn't answer my calls. And about a half hour later, he texted me saying his daughter had fallen into a coma because of me and that the hospital needed $10,000 to now do emergency surgery since I waited so long. I told him what I found out from some children's hospitals, and he told me that I violated his privacy by calling them and that I must not love or trust him. As we were talking, I received an email from a military general hospital, or I should say an email from the Military Hospital of United Nation, telling me that Jeffrey's daughter needed emergency surgery and asked me to remit $10,000 for payment and gave me a bank account number to a person in Atlanta, Georgia. At this point, I ended up calling the Atlanta Children's Hospital and telling them the situation, to which they informed me, and keep in mind this is the second time I'd called them, that this simply doesn't happen, and they asked me the name and number of the father, which I gave to them. I was swirling in confusion at this point, and that's when Jeffrey called me about an hour later, screaming at me that some woman from Child Services Atlanta called him inquiring about his daughter needing medical treatment and that they wanted to offer some services and find out what was going on. Jeffrey told me I was a foolish woman for involving myself in his business and that I violated the military law of interference in a military member's child, and he was going to send a military police officer to my home to have me arrested for breach of information. I told him all I tried to do was help his daughter, and he told me I should have just sent the 10,000 and shut my mouth and minded my business and do as I was told. I was angry at this point and told him I won't be spoken to like that, and he started yelling at me louder, calling me an old fool. I told him off and blocked him from WhatsApp and stopped all communications. After this incident, I started doing research and found out that the photos that he said were him were actually stolen from a well known IG paratrooper who has thousands of photos open on IG for scammers to use. And you can guess, I never did get my gold bars in the mail either. The website for the global shipping company was removed online as well. That's my encounter. Thank you for letting me share with others. We'd like to thank this lady for sharing her story. Unfortunately, people do research after they're scammed, not before sending the money. And scammers know that most people will not look into the photos or information, as many people just lead with their heart, especially when they hear about a sick child or the promise of gold bars. The gold bar scam has been around since the mid 2000s, and romance scammers continue to fool people with this scam. If you'd like to share your encounter with an online romance scammer, you can find us scammingscammers@gmail.com. You can also find us right now on Facebook under Scamming Cyber Education. We have an inbox there as well. Drop us your story, any screenshots, photos, and information you have. We'll verify your story, narrate it into a video, and as always, you can remain anonymous. Until next time, stay safe.